So in today's tutorial, I want to talk to you about how to wind yarn for 2 at a time knitting. So the materials you're going to need for this tutorial are going to be a ball winder, a kitchen scale, and a swift. So there are 2 ways that yarn typically comes when you buy it. On the left hand side, you'll see that the yarn is in a ball band or in a ball, and on the right hand side you'll see that the skein is in a hank. So those are 2 types of ways that you can receive yarn. For the yarn that is on the left hand side, all you would need would be a ball winder, and for the yarn that's listed on the right hand side, you're actually going to need a swift in order to wind that particular style of yarn. So I'm going to start out with the skein that is in a ball, and on the back of the packaging, usually show you how many grams are included in that ball. So we want to make sure that we split those evenly into 2 balls. And for this, you're going to need an inexpensive kitchen scale, and you can get that on Amazon. I got mine on Amazon, and also a ball winder, which I also got on Amazon. So now we're just going to take the ball band off of the yarn, and we are going to find the beginning of where the skein starts, and then we are going to take that starting point and guide it through the guide point on the ball winder itself. So there's a slit on top of the ball winder where you want to place the beginning of your yarn so that you'll have a center pull, and that just keeps it in place so you'll know where your center is. And then you just start to wind your yarn off of the ball, and you will continue to do this until you finish the complete skein and it has all been wound into one ball. So I'm going to fast forward through this part so that we can finish winding the yarn. And now that it is completed, so now we're going to definitely lift that yarn off of the ball winder, and then we're going to place that yarn on top of our kitchen scale. I changed my dimensions on the kitchen scale, or my unit, to grams so that it'll match what's on the back of the package of the skein of yarn. And typically mine is showing 95, so it's close to 100, so I'm going to get right around 47 or so grams that I want for each ball. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be very close. So we're going to go ahead and guide the yarn back through the guide, and we're going to basically start over, and this is how we're going to split this yarn in 2. So since we have a center pull now, it's going to be very easy to wind off half of this skein, and you typically just keep going and periodically check your scale. Take your hand off of the ball of yarn just to see kind of where you are as far as the weight of the unit is, and you just continue to do this periodically throughout. Oops, it fell off. Throughout the process, and then once you get too close to half, then you can stop and cut your yarn. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up again, and like I said, just keep periodically checking to see if you've gotten to half of the skein on the scale. It's pretty simple. And then basically, if you don't have any matching preferences, once you begin your knitting, you can just pick up where the 2 skeins meet. But if you have striping that you want to match, then you need to, once you've wound off your yarn, you want to typically try to match up the striping sequence in ball 1 and ball 2 to where they start at the exact same place. And just as a side note, I typically like to rewind rewind the second ball because it's a little bit looser because you've taken half of the center out. That's just a personal preference. You definitely don't have to do that, but I tend to like to do that just to keep the balls nice and firm. So now I want to show you the Swift that I use. It's a Stanwood tabletop Swift that I got off of Amazon a couple of years ago, and I love it for the fact that it's very lightweight. Since I don't have a dedicated craft room, I can put this back up in the box when I'm done and it's out of the way, and it's great. And like I said, it's very lightweight and very easy to put together. So I'll put a link in the description box below. I also got this off of Amazon. And like I said, I love it because it gets the job done. So you just put the two bases together, and you've got the two long pieces that actually are going to hold the skein itself. And there's a shorter dowel rod that goes in the center. And basically you have put the Swift together. It is that simple. You've got 4 additional dowel rods that will be used to hold the yarn on to the actual Swift itself. But other than that, like I said, very, very simple. When you're unwinding a hank, typically it comes tied so that it doesn't get tangled. And usually one of those ties is actually tied to the beginning of the yarn, so you'll know where the beginning is, which is really nice. So basically you want to take your time with this. I didn't do it necessarily for this video because it's just a quick tutorial, but I really stress making sure that you do not tangle up the hank because it can be a nightmare. So like I said, just take your time, unwind all of the ties, find your end, and then when you get ready to put your yarn on the actual Swift, like I said, just make sure you take your time and unfold everything, and the process will go much smoother for you. So here I'm just still looking for the beginning of where the yarn starts, and I found it, so I'm going to snip off the closure for that, and we are ready to put the yarn on our Swift. So now we want to go ahead and stick our additional 4 dowels into the Swift, and you want to space those out evenly because you want your skein to have a nice tight hold around the dowel rods. It'll make it easier to keep the yarn from tangling, and you may have to do some adjustments to make sure that they're evenly fixed. But like I said, for this tutorial, I didn't do that great of a job as far as detangling the hank on screen, but I did do it off of screen or video, so don't worry, it came out fine. But like I said, just make sure that you take your time with making sure that it's all nice and straightened, and like I said, it'll be a much easier process for you and less of a headache for you in the end. So now everything is ready to go. You've wound your yarn through your guide on your ball winder, and as you are winding off to the ball winder, you just want to have a steady control with the Swift. You don't want the Swift to go faster than the ball winder because then the yarn will typically wrap back around the Swift, and that is another headache that you don't want. So once you're done, you will end up with a ball or a center pull ball, and then you can just split that into 2 balls as I showed you in the earlier part of the video. So I hope you guys have found this video helpful, and I will see you guys in the next tutorial. Thanks.